I wonder if you can think of a time when you were included to your surprise. Maybe the popular kid in the grade above you complimented your feathered bangs, or somebody sought out your advice when you didn't even know they had this kind of respect for you. For years, I thought that wrapping a present was at least a two-person job because of how sincerely my mother sought and accepted help from one of us kids to press a finger firmly to hold the ribbon in place while she finished tying it into a bow. I thought it couldn't be done without such critical help. And this question is for all the younger siblings out there. Did you ever have to insist on your own inclusion? I remember when my children were small and I hugged one and I had barely finished saying, "I love you" to her before a sibling from across the room bellowed, "What about me?" And I have to say, I have always admired that ready insistence to speak up for the love you know you need. What about me? Our gospel reading from Matthew gives us such an array of circumstances by which the mercy of Jesus can be encountered. One man was going about his business, sitting there at the tax booth, collecting fees from those who traveled that road for trade. A despised member of society who not only worked for the Roman Empire, but who may, like other tax collectors, have padded his own pockets by cheating, collecting more than the required taxes. It was Jesus who approached him and said to follow, which he seems to have done without hesitation. But that's not to say it went over easily. When Jesus broke bread with Matthew, we're told that other tax collectors and sinners joined them, sitting there at the table with Jesus and his disciples. Wonder how that felt to Peter and the others, those who had dedicated their lives to follow Jesus and his ministry, who are upstanding, hardworking, good folks. And here, this tax collector, the one who may have bilked them personally out of their hard-earned earnings. And the Pharisees certainly take note. What kind of gathering is this? This is the sort of company they keep around here. Lie down with dogs, get up with fleas, right? That's how the common wisdom goes. And yet Jesus sought out companionship with Matthew, choosing to stay and dine with others who come near. And these are all people who will benefit from gracious acceptance, mercy, belonging, whatever you'd like to call it. Now, whether and when or how their own lives might change from that experience will come to be seen. But the experience is changing the community already. As the Pharisees and disciples negotiate within themselves how ready they are to navigate God's mercy up close. Boy, it's gritty when you zoom in this close. And God's mercy is for someone that I wasn't ready to have mercy for. But who are we to say how God might work in and through someone surprising to make the way of life and truth more visible? We might be the surprising one, called into a deeper role than we went looking for, because God has need of us. I wonder what things of ours can be left unfinished so we can move into what God wants to complete in us. Now, we do have a more sympathetic character who approaches Jesus as well, this leader from the synagogue who quietly and humbly shares the news of his daughter's death. And yet he seems to believe that the presence and touch of Jesus will allow the girl to live again. This is someone steeped in the rhythms of prayer and community, and who would know the holy stories of God's mercy. It's Jesus to whom he comes, sure that Jesus can help that mercy intervene in the sorrows of his house. With this grief and loss comes a willingness to bend the knee and ask for something audacious. It's not uncommon that in our own shadowed valleys, we find a new readiness to call on God and even to believe in mercy. We might feel a connection to that daughter, the life having gone out of us, and yet we awaken to the gracious truth that we have not been forgotten, but someone has advocated for our return to wholeness and life. Another comes to Jesus, yet wishes not to be seen, and she too has a bold hope. This woman who has suffered from a disordered bleeding for 12 long years would have also suffered social consequences from her ailment as well. She would be ritually unclean and avoided as an outcast, since anyone who came in contact with her would be made unclean as well. But her desire for healing, wholeness, being made well, salvation, all these words have the same root. Her desire for this healing compels her to take a risk and reach for the mercy she wants and needs. And rather than accuse or recoil from her, Jesus praises the woman for her faith that drew her toward this wholeness. He turns and calls her daughter. What deeper claiming could there be than, "You belong to me. I recognize and see that your faith is part of your wholeness." What power there is in making one small reach for the help we need. I find Jesus' reaction to this woman so deeply affirming of her instinct to reach for life. Two who seek Jesus out, one minding his own business who is sought by Jesus, another awakened to life because of the care of someone who brought Jesus to her. Who's to say how we will find or be found by mercy first? We may approach our spiritual life with humility and confidence that God can and will intervene in the cares we're bearing. Maybe we are asking on behalf of another. At times, our shame at our condition might give our approach a different form. We may even be unaware that an aspect of our lives is ripe for change until Jesus meets us at our desk, in a conflicted relationship, in a season of carelessness. The divine seeking us out in the middle of what is. We are so fortunate to have these stories to tell, dwell on, and think about. Again and again, human nature narrows and circumscribes the terms of mercy and belonging. We make up endless avenues for exclusion and ranking and separation. These little snippets from the gospel today, none of them more than a few verses in themselves, these show us how many different ways there are to discover and to be made whole by God's goodness. How ready God is to find us and be found by us.